Hey, John here. So in this one, I'm going to do something a little bit different from the normal alternate picking and, electric guitar technique stuff. But this is equally important, and this is actually something that could benefit a beginner just as much as someone a bit more advanced. It's a practice technique that I like to use when I have problems switching between any two chords. So this will really help you speed up your chord changes, both in how much time it takes to get them down, but also how fast you can switch between the chords. So let's just dive right in here. So I'm gonna start by playing this chord. So it's like a C add 9. Now I want you to apply this to whatever you're working on, so you make it applicable to your situation. And basically it can be a classical piece, it can be just, if you're a beginner, maybe just working on the standard open chords. It doesn't really matter, because this practice technique applies to all of them. And it doesn't really matter how many fingers you use per chord here either. It's basically just a concept of how to think when you practice, and that will help your brain to get this down much quicker. So we have the first chord here in the example, so I'm just playing 3, 2, open, 3, 3. And you have tabs for this on my Patreon as well. Then the second chord is just like an open C chord, but from D here, so that's the idea. And the way to practice then, instead of just sitting there doing that, we're gonna do that, but we're gonna think about it a little bit differently. So what we want to do here is to focus on each finger in turn. So when I do the first switch here, I want to focus on what my index finger is doing. And when I mean focus, I just want to sort of track the journey that my index finger is doing. So you don't necessarily need to break it down like this, but that can be helpful as well. But just by focusing on the index finger, you can start noticing sort of the best route for your finger to take to get to that next destination. So you see I go from the 2nd fret D string to 3rd fret B string here. And just do a few reps like this. It can be whatever tempo you feel comfortable with, that you can do it cleanly. So maybe 4 reps. And then I do the same thing with the 2nd finger. So now it's gonna go from here to here. So that's gonna be that. But again, I basically do this in a flow. So I would go, focus on the index finger, and then do that for a few reps. Then I focus on the 2nd finger, do that for a few reps, and so on. And then we take the 3rd finger, so we're going from here to here. So that's quite a big shift. But then I can make sure that I'm not, doing anything like this, or, doing something that wouldn't help me to switch smoother. And by focusing on each finger in turn, our brain gets sort of a shortcut to getting this down. Because if you just sit like this, it can actually take a while before you realize that you're doing something that you don't need to do. So a very common thing that I've seen people who are fairly new on the instrument is that they sort of reset the whole hand and then, put it down. Things like that is going to really slow you down. And if you sit and repeat that, that's going to become a habit. So it's better, you're much better off really focusing on what each finger should be doing. And then just by doing that, your brain will find the most efficient way of doing it. So it's basically just giving your brain some clarity of what you want your fingers to be doing. So it's not really magic, but it kind of feels like it once you've done it a few times, especially if you have trouble with certain chord changes. So now we have 1 finger left. And now I chose these 2 chords for a reason, because this one uses all 4 fingers, this one uses 3 fingers. But that doesn't matter. You still want to focus on all the fingers, even when they're not included in a chord, because you want to make sure that, for example, in this case, the pinky doesn't just go and do anything like that. You also want to have the pinky, nice and curled up and relaxed in the 2nd chord. So that's the idea. So you don't skip a finger, even if it's not included in any of the chords, because again, you want to make sure you're not flying away from the fretboard or having excess tension or anything like that. So give that a try on any progression that you're working on. And like I said, I usually do this with just 2 chords at a time. And most of the time, that's the best way of doing it, because you'll find that it's not necessarily, you know, all the chords in a progression you have trouble with. It might be just that one shift. So start there. And the next thing you can do, if it's particularly hard and you have more time to practice this, I would go through 6 more combinations. And that's going to be dividing the 2 fingers, dividing the 4 fingers into 2 finger groups. So we're going to get 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 4. And if you've been to this channel before, you've seen this in numerous picking exercises, legato exercises, and all kinds of things, because it's a very systematic way of doing it. And I like doing it systematically so I don't paint myself into a guitar technique corner. So if we do apply the same thing here, then now I'm going to focus on 1 and 2 at the same time. So it's a bit trickier. So be comfortable with the 1 finger combinations first. So 1 and 2. Now 1 and 2 is going to be here. But again, you don't need to do what I'm doing here. I'm just doing this to demonstrate. So just trying to focus as best as you can on 1 and 2. And then you do that a few times. Then you 1 and 3. So, and that's going to go like that. Right, and then 1 and 4. And again, we're not using the 4th finger here. So, but that doesn't really matter. Like I said before, it's all about making sure that you don't do anything silly with that finger that you're not using. Okay, so that's all the combinations using the index finger. So 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. Now we have 2, 3. So and then 2, 4. And then finally we have, let's see, you have 3, 4 left. So if you have some particularly stubborn chord change, apply this, and I'm pretty sure this is gonna help you solve the problem way easier. So like I said, start with the 1 finger combinations first, and then move into the 2 finger combinations if you feel the need. Because if you're fine with just doing with the 1 finger combinations, there's really no need to do more practice. So that's another general thing. Once you find that it starts to work, there's no point in you keep grinding that particular chord change, right? It's better to move on to something else that you can really improve on. I'm gonna do this with 1 more progression so you can see. So I'm gonna do this one and this one. So this is a G sharp minor 9th, and this is an E major add 9. Right, so this is like the power ballad chord. So we have 4 on the low E string. We have 4 on the D string, and then we have 3 on the G string, and then we have open B, and then we have the 2nd fret of the E string. So the notes would be root, flat 7, 9th, minor 3rd, flat 7 again. And then the E is just like a normal E chord, but we raise the root note up to the 2nd, and then we get an add 9. So why I wanted to show you this progression is because, 1, it sounds cool, but also if you look at the index finger, nothing, you know, weird happening here. It's just a normal shift as before. Same with the 2nd finger, and the 3rd finger is not used in the 2nd chord. So again, we want to make sure we're not have any unnecessary tension there when we get to the 2nd chord. If you look at the pinky instead, you can see that I can stay in place. And I see especially a lot of fairly new people on guitar do this. They play that chord, and then they release everything. Even if it's just a tiny release like this, which can be fine for, you know, if it's easier for you to relax. But in most cases, it's done unconsciously, and then you just working harder than you need to. So I wouldn't do that unless I wanted to cut this note off for some reason. And you will get a smoother sound, because I mean, you're not going to hear this ring a lot, but it makes a slight difference in the sound when you keep this one down. The only thing you need to be careful about is that you don't push too hard. but that's for another video. So try applying this now to something that's important to you, whatever piece you're working on or whatever chord change, depending on your level. But like I said in the beginning, this technique is suitable for any level of guitar players. And I think it might be even better for beginner guitar players because there's so much stuff to think about in the beginning. And before you get these sort of grips down, where it's just automatic, it takes quite a lot of practice, and this will help you shave off some hours, in my opinion, when you can think about it like this instead. And another thing that it does, it makes these repetitions that you need to do when you work on chord progressions, it's gonna go by a lot quicker because you have a different focus the whole time. So you're just not sitting there, you know, getting bored. Now, of course, repetitions is crucial when you practice. So any way you can make the repetitions a bit easier to get through and more effective, the better off you are. So let me know in the comments if you feel that this helped you and if you have any other tips that you found useful for learning to switch between chords. Back in the day, I used to have real issues with fast alternate picking when it came to 2 notes per string. I was fine with 3 notes per string, but the 2 notes per string thing was a bit harder to crack. So if you struggle with fast alternate picking as well, and you don't know what to practice or for how long, I've created the perfect solution for you in the form of the Pentatonic Picking Power Book. So in this book, you'll find a daily workout that will not only help your pentatonic picking, but will also upgrade your overall alternate picking technique. So it contains basically the same exercises I use myself to develop my picking abilities, as well as numerous students over the years that I've given the same exercise to with great results. So I know these exercises work as long as you put in the work. So it's not a quick solution or quick fix. It will still take a lot of work, but at least you have a very easy to follow routine. So if you're up for a big alternate picking upgrade in 2024, I cannot think of a better start. It's $9 and I think it's very underpriced, but I did it that way just so as many people as possible could be helped by this. So check that out.